Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA front office show, and you know what time it is. That's right, Keith. Fire up that Simmons siren. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Simmons siren.
Simmons siren is here. We've got more going on in the twisting, turning story as the Simmons turns. Ben Simmons and the 76ers, my goodness, this thing just keeps going and going. Now we've got comments from Joel Embiid about the whole situation. We've got a potential deal, at least has been discussed a little bit. Kyrie Irving for Ben Simmons. Could that even happen? Is there a way that we can make this happen? It seems like it's too easy. Keith, we've got so much to dive into here with this.
So let's start with that second one. That
Yeah.
sounds like that's more speculation from other places other than
Mm-hmm.
the 76ers or the Nets on the Kyrie for Ben Simmons. It sounds like the Nets have no interest in moving Kyrie Irving, and that makes sense. He came there as a package deal with Kevin Durant, and they've added James Harden. And yes, there's the vaccination status stuff. We're going to get
Right.
into some stuff on that in a little bit here. But yeah, I don't think there's anything there. But it's clear that Simmons is being widely shopped, that there's offers coming in from everywhere. Everybody's trying to steal this guy on the cheap, and we'll see where it goes. But the real news today, to me, more so than this Kyrie Irving stuff, is the Joel Embiid comments about Ben Simmons and their relationship and the way the 76ers have built that roster.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, and I want to break down the Kyrie thing in just a minute, but Joel
Sure.
Embiid coming out and saying what he did about Ben Simmons and pretty much unloading on him about this whole thing and saying that he's here for the guys who are actually there and in the building, and that it's kind of disrespectful to everybody, and also kind of implies that they built the team around Ben Simmons, even mentioning Jimmy Butler being shipped out so the ball could be in Ben Simmons' hands. It's kind of like he's saying, look, what else do you want us to do for you? We've bent over backwards and it's still not enough. So it feels like this is some frustration being vented here by Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I think so. The latest reports were that Simmons feels that they haven't done enough to build a roster around him that maximizes his skills.
Mhm.
And Embiid, rightly so, said, "Hey, our starting five, I was the worst three-point shooter in the bunch, and I was at 38%, which is pretty good for a
Yeah.
center." So it was very clear that Embiid feels Simmons is off on that, and you're absolutely right. He said, "Hey, we brought in Al Horford in part because we needed." More floor spacing and we needed another big that could really fit and play with Simmons. And then he said, that didn't work out. And then he said, yeah, Jimmy Butler, which he said was a mistake, letting Jimmy Butler go. But we needed to put the ball in Ben's hands. And then that's when it was interesting because if you actually watch the clip of the interview, you can see he starts off fairly kind of like, I'm going to talk about this
Right.
again, which is we said that's what's going to happen now for until it's not a situation anymore. It's going to continue. But then he kind of get a little more passionate as the interview went along before he kind of calmed himself back down at the end. And he wasn't screaming and
No.
yelling or anything like that, but you could tell he's had it. He's had enough of he's not there. And he kind of closed it with, look, he's not here. I'm focused on the guys who are here. It's disrespectful that he's not here with us, and we're going to go to war with the guys we have. So, Kyrie Irving, I don't think that's going to be a trade, but
No.
I mean, good.
But like, okay,
Math works.
if you're looking in from the outside, right? It makes so much sense. Now again, look, suspend disbelief, right? The Nets, they probably don't want it. Kyrie was instrumental in getting KD there and setting themselves up and all that kind of stuff. And Kyrie, who knows? Kyrie, if he was traded, he might just say, I'm just not going to play basketball anymore then, right? Like
Sure.
that. There's a whole slew of issues that you could have if you actually decided to do this. But on the surface, the 76ers would get a point guard that fits way better because he can shoot with the entire team. And then for the Nets, the biggest issue is their defense and Kyrie maybe not being there for half of the games. And so you solve that problem. Ben Simmons would be a tremendous defensive presence for them. And you just put the ball into the hands of James Harden more and let him be essentially the quote unquote point guard for you. And don't forget they brought in Patty Mills as well. I feel like you can make an argument that not only are you solving the problem with Kyrie potentially not being able to play in home games, but both teams may actually get better in terms of filling needs by doing this move. And again, it's not likely that it's going to happen, but you could see why. If you're looking from the outside, you would say, yeah, this kind of makes sense, especially because financially it can just be a straight up swap.
Sure, yeah. I mean, for the net side of it, they end up with a ton more defense than what they have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Simmons is, I mean, he's going to be the best player, defensive player in almost any team in the league, but clearly by far and away the best defensive player on that Nets roster if it went that way. And then he can slide in there and play the forward spot, and you just kind of bump Durant and Harris and Harden all down one spot
Yep.
in the lineup, and off you go. And that's a great team, probably still the best team in the league, and you feel, really good about it. Then Philly side, yeah, you get Kyrie. Yeah, your defense takes a pretty massive hit,
Yeah.
but right now it's better than the nothing. And that's, it's just one of those ones where it it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to happen.
For a lot of
So
other reasons. Yeah.
it's for a lot of other reasons, exactly. But I will say what it does get you start thinking about is for Philadelphia, the only one who's really getting hurt right now is the Philadelphia 76ers, because clearly
Yeah.
Ben Simmons is cool with forfeiting some money and all that. And like we've said before, but it's worth repeating, they don't get to replace him.
Yeah.
They don't get to add a roster spot. They don't have anybody else there. It's a lot of pressure on Tyrese Maxey to step up and probably slide in and take a lot of the ball handling duties on and those kind of things. And that's a tricky spot for, second year guard who he played a decent amount last season, but wasn't always a key rotation player. So yeah, this is just going to continue to be a mess. And to me, this is why at some point it can't be about winning the trade. It
Yeah.
just has to be about getting the best deal you can and moving on, just to one, get something in there to play in terms of a player, and then just get rid of the distraction and move on and say, hey, we tried, we did our best, and now we're going forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what teams trying to trade with the 76ers are waiting for. Because right now the 76ers are still asking for everything, right? In exchange for Ben
Yeah,
Simmons. And teams are just saying, look, at some point they're going to say we need something for this guy. He's just sitting at home, and they're going to come back down to earth, and then we can maybe make a deal happen. But until they reach that point, I don't see a deal getting done unless something does happen where maybe a team finds out their star is disgruntled, and you can come up with some straight up swap or something like
sure.
that happen. Something would have to change in the equation right now in order for something to get done, whether it's the 76ers lower their price, so a situation changes with another team and they greatly increase their price. We'll see what winds up happening, but as things sit right now, there's no deal to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't sound like there is one coming anytime soon either. There's not, we're not even hearing like rumors or, they're
Hmm.
close. And,
No.
we, even the teams that were pushing, that's all died down now because everybody's refocused on our training camp. We got
Yeah.
to focus on the guys who are here, and we got to start moving our roster forward and building it out so we can have the best season we can have. So that's not to say, tomorrow Daryl Morey picks up the phone and calls Cleveland or Minnesota or whatever, and they don't immediately re-engage and figure something out. Of course they will, but we're not even hearing that kind of buzz anymore. And then to go back to Kyrie Irving,
Yeah.
because it'll transition right into our next topic, almost like we're professionals
Almost
at
like we
this or
planned
something.
it.
It's not like we planned it, right? Kyrie Irving is we know what the vaccination status deal is there, or
Hmm.
at least we assume. He said he wanted to keep it private, and because he wasn't at media day, we can assume how that went.
Yep.
But he is the Nets have said they will not trade him. That that will not be the reason why they're going to trade
Right.
him. It's not even under consideration. So put it out the window. But good news on the vaccination front. Just a couple days ago, the NBA came out and kind of said, or the NBPA came
Yes.
out and said 90% of players are vaccinated. In just a couple days, that number's up to 95%.
Hmm.
So now the pessimists will say, well, yeah, that's just because a couple guys were waiting to show up in the facility at the start of camp and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe you might have caught one or two guys
Sure.
that way, but the reality is most of these guys have been already in the facility for the last couple of weeks. You're hearing that out of basically every training camp. Like, yeah, we got out ahead of everybody else because everybody's been here for 2 weeks
Hmm.
working out, and it's like, you didn't get ahead of anybody if everybody did that, but it is what it is with that. But yeah, and then the optimist will say a couple of these guys I think saw the harsher restrictions, how much
Mhm.
it's gonna kind of be you're isolated and lonely throughout the year. You're not gonna be able to hang out with anybody, go out and do anything. And I'm guessing that kind of forced people into rethinking their plans and those kind of things. In addition, you may have had a handful of veteran players on teams say, like, hey, we want to compete for a title. We want to compete for the playoffs. We want to do this. We want to do that. Don't be the guy who screws it up. Go get this done. And I think whatever form or fashion this is taken, we saw that's a pretty substantial jump. And once you get to 95%, you're starting to get down to the holdouts who are not going to get vaccinated
No
under
matter
any
what.
circumstances at this point.
Right, and this is actually something that Kent Bazemore talked about the other day at Lakers Media Day. Basically, he did the same thing. He said Rob Pelinka had a long conversation with him, and they went over everything. He just went over all the facts and everything, and said, these are essentially your options. And he made the choice to go ahead and get vaccinated. So he gets his second shot. I think he said in a couple of weeks. So he's had one already. But a lot of players that were kind of holding out on getting vaccinated are in that position where they're saying, okay, so what does this ultimately mean for me? What does my season look like if I'm not vaccinated versus I am vaccinated? And the NBA has reiterated that, look, they are going to keep these very strict rules for players that are not vaccinated. And for a lot of players, that is enough to get them to say, you know what? I don't want my season to be like that. I don't want to be isolated away from everybody else. I'll go ahead and do this. Like you said, though, there's a few who are not. And so the argument that's being made, or at least what's being put out there by the NBPA, is that, look, what's happening is that what we should be doing is celebrating the fact that we're at 90, now 95% vaccination. Compare that to the rates of the country, of the United States. Way more people are vaccinated by percentage in the NBA than around the country.
That was some funny math there, though, because they used the total population of the U.S.
Correct.
and it's really what should be used is the
The
adult
adult
population. Because
population.
still, as we are both aware, with being family men, kids 12 and under aren't eligible to get vaccinated yet in the United States in most cases.
Right.
So yeah, so it's they say compared to 55%, but I
That
believe the number that's been fairly widely touted is closer to 75% of those eligibles. Now, still,
still
hey, 20 percentage points.
still
At the time it
stands.
was 15, but now it's 20. That's still that's still an accomplishment.
Absolutely. And so what they're saying is, look, what's actually happening, the reason why this is being such a big topic is because the guys who are holding out are big names, right? It's Kyrie,
Yeah,
it's Andrew
and they're
Wiggins,
vocal.
and they're vocal. Yeah. And Michael Porter Jr., right? Like these are some bigger names in the NBA, and that's what's happening. That's why it's getting so much attention, which, that has some validity to it, but it's not just that these guys are saying, no, I'm not going to get vaccinated, or Kyrie at least kind of remaining mysterious about it. It's them not being able to play in the games. Like, I think a lot of people are focused on that part of it. Like, if you're a Warriors fan and you're thinking our best, until Klay Thompson shows he's healthy, our best wing defender can't play home games, like that part of it is a really big deal too for fans, in addition to, of
Yep.
course, the public health topic.
And the players too. Stephen
Yeah.
Curry said that they asked if it was acceptable, and he said, "I that's a strong word," and then he
Yeah.
said it's not ideal. To give a little perspective on what these numbers mean, because we can say 90, 95% and all that. I don't know what number they're using. Are they using 510, which is the maximum amount of NBA players you
Sure.
can be on a roster in the regular season, 17 players times 30 teams, or are they using the 20 players times 30 teams, which is 600 players in the preseason? But either way, it's a range of somewhere between 25 to 30 players remain unvaccinated, and
Hmm.
that I think starts to give you a little bit better context to wow, it's really not that many
Right.
guys. And within that group, it was expected that there would be a small handful of players who would get approved the exemptions for reasons to not get
Yes.
vaccinated, whether it be medical wise or something along those lines. So, or the other option was a religious exemption, which we know Andrew Wiggins was declined one. But yeah, it's just let's it's just gonna keep watching this, keep seeing where it goes, and
Hmm.
go from there. Bradley Beal kind of the second day walked back his comments a little bit and said, hey, I didn't say I never would. I
Yes.
just said I'm not now, and I'm asking questions and all those kind of things. And it's believed he's still in the window from when he had COVID, where they don't recommend you get vaccinated
Yeah.
yet. So maybe he will get vaccinated after, but where it's just, this is going to be a story. It's not going to go away anytime soon. And the last update for this part of it is the NBA and NBPA are currently in negotiations for how do they withhold pay
Yeah.
for players who miss games due to not being vaccinated. Now, this is not necessarily they're on the COVID list and they're out because of that and
Hmm.
those things. This is more the Kyrie, Andrew Wiggins situation where they can't play in their home arenas. And the reason why they're negotiating it is the CBA doesn't cover it.
This hasn't happened.
Yeah, wasn't a thought of, hey, what about if they're withholding services due to vaccine status?
Yeah.
That's not, well, it wasn't a thing when the CBA was written. So what we're seeing right now is they're reacting in real time to what this looks like. But the NBA has held firm on they will not be paid for games they miss. Due to this, it's now the question is, all right, they're saying they won't be paid. The Players Association seems to be in relative agreement with that.
Hmm.
Now that what they're negotiating is how much will they not be paid with that.
In addition to, what will this do to teams' luxury taxes? Will this take off of your tax
Yeah.
bill or not? Like, that's something that I think is still being negotiated and still being discussed. And I've even seen some people say, look, this could, in a weird way, wind up being actually beneficial to a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who really only cares about getting to the playoffs healthy. Well, now you've just cut in half Kyrie Irving's opportunities to get injured in a game. Maybe that's looking a little bit too hard for a silver lining, though. But
Yeah, that's some galaxy
that's
brain stuff right
absolutely.
there. Yeah.
But I'm seeing
That's
people
that
talk
meme where
about
it's
that out
like
there.
Kyrie will miss games, and then what the guy's head keeps getting brighter and brighter
He's
until
like,
it's like the whole
that's
galaxy.
right.
So yeah, yeah.
But you know
All right,
what?
we get a couple other pieces.
Well,
Oh, go
let's
ahead.
let's jump into let's go to Bradley Beal, since we just talked about him and he's kind of
Yeah,
part of this story. Him and
not
his
vaccine
right,
related.
non-vaccine related, but contract related. He's
Yeah.
up for an extension with the Wizards. They're of course going to
Yep.
offer it to him, and keep their fingers crossed that he signs it. Doesn't sound like he's actually going to sign anytime soon, though.
Yeah, he's not going to make a quick decision. Bradley Beal is one of those guys who's in that position where he can make far more money if he actually just waits
Hmm.
and goes into free agency next summer. My guess is that's exactly how this plays out, because then he'll be at the 10 years of service. He'll be in the full max tier. Right now, it's just going to build off his current salary. So my guess is we don't see him sign an extension unless he really looks at it and says, all right, the difference between it, I don't need
The
that.
Kawhi
It'll help
decision.
us, build out this roster and those kind of things. And yeah, maybe he'll go that way. But I've long felt he probably will just take this to free agency,
Hmm.
because then it also keeps a little bit more pressure on the Wizards as well, as far as like, hey, continue to keep improving the roster and let's see where things go from there. I know they're very excited about their offseason additions. I think they have a chance to be a pretty good team in the East. So we'll see how that all comes together for them. But yeah, it's nice to be talking about Bradley Beal and contract extension
That's
versus
right.
other topics. So we'll take that at least as a win out of this.
And I mean, the downside to doing that, obviously, he gets more money if he waits until free agency next offseason. He has a player option, so in theory, I guess he could opt in, but it would make more sense to opt out and become a free agent. Downside is it becomes a talking point, right? Wherever he goes, he goes and he plays wherever he goes to Boston. Hey, how do you like Boston? Do you enjoy being here? That type of, like,
Yeah.
that becomes a
Yeah.
talking point everywhere he goes all season
Hmm.
long. If people know that he's headed for free agency, it would take him coming out and saying, I'm staying right now. I'm just waiting until free agency. And like you said, that would then give up that kind of leverage over the organization to some degree as far as making improvements and things of that nature. So could be a little bit of a bumpy season for the Wizards just in terms of dealing with that situation if he indeed doesn't sign the extension. But financially, it probably makes the most sense to just go ahead, go down that route and deal with it.
When you mention a guy saying I'm going to stay and I'm just waiting till free agency, everybody
It's
in
Kyrie.
Celtics world, the cold shiver went
Yes.
right down their spine of like, we've heard that story before.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's going to be something that'll be monitored. Plus, you'll have the conversation all the way up to and through the trade deadline of should they move him if they're not confident he's going to
Hmm.
stay? Do you trade him now? What does that look like? So yeah, it's going to be a distraction at least some level if he doesn't sign this extension.
Correct. All right, I think we've got one more thing to get in here too, in here too, though. But Steve Kerr, it sounds like he is going to be the successor to take over Team USA, and makes sense. He's been an assistant, and should be a good fit for them to continue moving forward. I know there have been times where we were not too thrilled with what we saw out of Team USA in the Olympics, but again, still were able to get the job done. So Steve Kerr sounds like he's on tap to be the next man up to coach Team USA.
Makes sense. Like you said, he's got some history there
Mhm.
with Team USA. He's also a guy players really seem to like and enjoy playing for. So that makes that really important there because if you're going to ask guys to give up a significant chunk of their offseason every couple of years, you need somebody in place who they want to go there and be with. And that was Coach K for a long time. The guys were very happy to go play for Coach K. And for what it's worth, they were very happy to play for Pop too.
Mhm.
Nobody really complained about Pop. That was more all the rest of us as they lost the game and
Yes.
we weren't real thrilled. And in the end, he was kind of hey, let's see where it goes at the end, and then we could talk about it if we don't come home with the gold. And they did. It's very funny because there was a point in time about probably I want to say it was maybe 4-ish years or so ago when we knew Pop was the new coach, and there was a thought that eventually that would be Brad Stevens'
Hmm.
position because young, somebody that a lot of players like. And I got to wonder if his stepping away from coaching for at least the time being, if that maybe changed things a little bit. And it's just it's one of those things. And people yell and scream, is it this is unfair because they get to recruit guys and all this stuff. And it's like that's the nature of Team USA.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
just kind of how it works because we're probably 2-3 years away from the stories of when we're all in Tokyo and we couldn't go out
Yeah.
and we're hanging out. That's when players X, Y, and Z decided we were all going to play together, on some team and go to try to win a championship. It's coming. We know it is. We
Yep.
just don't know who the guys are going to be yet that are going to say it. But we know that story is going to be out there at some point.
Team USA, where super teams are formed. That should just be their slogan. That should be it right now. But then,
It
then every
should
team would
be.
try to put a stop to it. No, do not go play for Team
You know
USA.
what though? It might be a better recruiting tactic than hey, give up your whole summer and try to
That's
win a
true.
gold medal against teams that are only getting better that are going to really challenge you here. So yeah, that might be the better recruiting slogan. It'll be funny if Steve Kerr adopts that and says hey come here. I will be interested to see does this change. We haven't seen Stephen Curry suit up for Team USA.
True.
Does that change things for him? Is he more willing now to come? I want to see him play.
Yeah.
At least
He's
once
so
in the
good.
Olympics here. One more time. Yeah, because I mean, I do. I say this every year, and this is sorry for all our international viewers and listeners. This is me being the ugly American here. But I want our best guys to go because I want to go and stomp everybody.
Yeah.
I just want them. I want our best players to go. I want LeBron to play one more
I
time.
don't.
In there. I'm sure you don't,
No,
but
that,
I
that's
do
the
because
thing.
I
That's
don't.
the downside, right,
So
of Team USA is in general, most
yeah,
NBA fans do not want their guys there because of the risk
no,
of injury.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Teams
yep,
I see as soon as a star player says, I'm not playing for Team USA, the fans of that team tend to react positively. They celebrate. And that's the,
absolutely,
I wish it wasn't like that though.
yeah,
I wish there was a way to
yeah.
mitigate that situation.
Yeah, Celtics fans are a little worried about Jason Tatum. He
Yeah.
had COVID last year. By the end of the year, he was still talking about he wasn't exactly breathing right and all that stuff. And with that, he was still using an inhaler at points and after coming back from COVID. And clearly he had a really great Olympics. He's talked a lot about how much being there and being with those guys taught him about what it takes to really win at a high level and all those kind of things. So my guess is he's going to use that as a springboard into good things.
Hmm.
But yeah, for very good reasons, people were very nervous about it and saying, I just don't know about this. Like this is, worrisome. And then everybody goes back to what happened to Paul George, right? I mean, well,
Yes.
thankfully he's, took him, it was a long road back, but he got back, his career is on track and he's playing really well. But yeah, it's, just something that they got to work with and got to get figured out the best way to get the best guys there. The American in me says that, but yes, I fully understand why fans of various teams would be thrilled if their guys said, I'm going to take the summer off and
Yes.
not go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that gets us through just about everything. Guys, don't forget, make sure you subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office Show. Oh, Keith, I haven't told you this. I actually ordered today some new equipment. So, because I know people have mentioned that I've got a Lakers background here because I use this obviously for Lakers Nation as well. Now I'm going to have, and it's coming, I think, middle of the next week, so I can actually set up an NBA front office only
Look at this
station.
guy.
That's right. So I'm gonna use a little bit of the extra space I've got here in my studio and create an NBA front office space for us. So there you go.
Well, then that means I want one too. I don't want to be left out. What's up with that?
Well, but you're already in pretty much neutral
This is
territory. You've
my
got Team
sad
USA
face.
behind. You've got Team USA behind
I
you
do
there,
have
right?
the
I mean,
original Dream Team, the greatest team ever.
that's right.
And then all my Disney name tags. I
Yeah.
think it's the other thing you can see. Yeah. Yeah.
And-
But I want one. I want a front office show stuff too. I want some swag. Come on, man.
And we'll have to get some stuff made up. And I don't have like front office show branding. I'm just saying like I'm going to be setting up a space, but maybe that's something we got to do. We got to get some front office show professional looking backdrops and stuff like that.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah. Send us ideas in the comments. Also in the comments, guys, we know we've been running a little long on some of these videos. Let us know what you think about the lengths of the videos, as well as the
Yes.
podcast. I think podcast version people are a little more okay if it's a little long because they're probably in the car and those kind of things. But on the videos, you'll let us know because we're open to feedback and all that stuff. We're trying to bring you guys the show that we think you want, but we also we don't want to pull the old trick of here's 15 5-minute videos for you,
Right.
that when I could have just played one, but we're trying to be conscious of that and make sure we deliver a show that's quality for all you guys, because you guys have supported us, so we want to continue to give you that support back. But let us know what you think and all that, and we know tags and all those other things, but we've got some loyal fans that jump in there and seem pretty content to put tags in the shows on the much longer episodes.
That's right. The chapters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Again, make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. And of course, like this video. Till next time, stay safe and see ya.